Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and today we're going to talk about Legion. So there's a great TV show out that I've talked about a few times before since its first season premiered last year. Season 2 is out and is about 2 episodes in as of this recording. And it's so good! So there isn't much point to this video other than me talking about how awesome this series is and how much you should watch it, but hear me out because it's really cool. So Legion's all about David Haller, the illegitimate son of Professor Xavier, who has formidable powers, yet struggles with mental health issues and finding his place in the world. It's a very, very good show, done by the showrunner who made that Fargo TV series, which is also really fun and worth watching. Yet Legion is a beast unto itself, entirely original in its design and concept. While I like how Legion is depicted in the comics, and there's lots of good examples of that character done well, he just doesn't hold a candle to the one we see in the TV show in terms of how this character's powers are shown and depicted and used through cinematography, in terms of his personality and being a character you can kind of relate to and understand his struggles. David in the show is superior to David in the comics. It's a real example of adaptation done well, where it actually adds something to the source material that wasn't there before, and is all the better for it. So, I don't want to give too much away, but I definitely would recommend it. The cast is rock solid. A lot of the supporting characters are very cool and have legitimate mutant powers of their own. It's not the highest budget show in the world, so they don't do the big over-the-top fancy mutant stuff. Instead, they do much more subtle, interesting takes on powers and abilities, and showing the insane power of David. I don't feel like he's any weaker, technically, than the David we see in the comics. They do a good job at depicting how strong a character like that really is. And it's awesome. He can snap his fingers and someone just turns into dust, basically. And it's kind of implied that David's a lot more powerful than that and hasn't quite fully mastered his abilities yet. So I highly recommend you check it out for yourself if you haven't already. If you're a fan of him in the X-Men comics, you'll probably like the show, but it is worth noting that it is different. They do take some liberties and kind of go their own direction. But there's a really good villain in all of this. It might be who you expect, but it's certainly not the way you'd expect it, and not in terms of design and quality of it. It's the best I've ever... Let's put it this way, it's one of the best depictions of this villain I've ever seen, and I'm a big fan of this villain in the comics too, but I don't want to give that away if you haven't seen the first season yet. And yeah, if you aren't a fan of the comics, I think you'll like this too. You could show this to someone who doesn't care about superheroes or comics whatsoever, and they'd probably like this series. So I end this video on one extra little note. There is a reason I chose to make this particular video, even if it's brief and I didn't have much to say other than how good this series is. When I was talking about this with someone, they mentioned that Legion isn't doing as well on the ratings side of things. So this is a bit of a call to action. If you aren't watching Legion, like I said, you definitely should. If you are watching Legion and think it's a great show, I definitely recommend you start pushing other people into it. Because this is a show that could definitely benefit from a little bit more popularity, and it's different than any other superhero show I see on TV right now. It's so good, it can't just end on season 2. We need a full series, however long its natural length is, but I don't think it ends on season 2 here. On that note, yeah, I would definitely try and push some people into watching it. They'll decide pretty quickly whether or not they like it, because the pilot's good enough that it can draw you in if you're going to be interested in this sort of thing. It's worth noting that the series does get a little better from the pilot, but it is a very fine start to the series. You can even just show some people some of the crazy clips that come out of the show on YouTube, and they'll get a pretty good idea if this is the kind of show they want to watch, because the visuals of this series are amazing and so creative. There's a lot of a musical sense to everything, but it's not what you might think. It's not campy. It's done to showcase power and ability and surrealism, and it does that so well. And yeah, that's it for this video. You'll notice this is probably the first video you guys are going to see the new angles and backgrounds, and I have everything on eye level now, so let me know what you guys think of that. But I quite like it. You can kind of see the lovely poster in the background here, and I quite like that too. So that's everything. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our Patreon page. You can find the link in the video description below. And finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.